Hey guys, it's Sunday, October 7th, and this is very late where I am, even later on the East Coast. In fact, on the East Coast, I think it actually might be Monday, October 8th. I apologize for the delay in getting this video to you. I tried several times and I decided just to re-record the whole thing. This will be my afternoon and night combo video for Sunday. I am in Flagstaff, Arizona. It is cold, it's 38 degrees, but it's a city, and when you get into the city, as opposed to the open plains, it's one of those lower temperatures, but with no wind and not a lot of moisture in the air. It feels very pleasant actually. So from that standpoint, even though I'm cold, it's not overbearing. A lot to share with you today, tonight. This is sometimes I give videos and I'm just kind of filling time. Other times I think there's a really valid point, worthwhile point I want to get across, and it's important to me. And tonight's one of those nights. So I may go over one video. This may be a two-parter when all is said and done. But let's just get started. So tomorrow starts my, I'm not sure what it is, 14th, 15th week of the journey. I spent the last day and a half with a really wonderful family, younger couple, Aaron and Christy, and met their three really wonderfully beautiful kids. I always have a soft spot, and I stayed the second day because I was hoping to share more with the family and the kids. And frankly, it's always hard for me when I leave to the unknown after having connected with some folks. And that's the way I felt this time, and it's always a little bit scary heading out to the unknown. The advantage this time is I know I've got some other wonderful folks that have reached out to me I'm going to be meeting with over the next few days, so that's kind of an ace up my sleeve that I have, knowing that. So it wasn't so upsetting to leave today, but I had a great time with these folks, and the one thing that stands out for me was the love they have for each other. You don't always see that, and that's really important. And I can even speak for myself, that I don't always talk that way. It's easy to say what someone's not doing, or to feel like you're overwhelmed. For example, Aaron works very hard. Christy appreciates it. She had a pile of wash. I made a joke, and today, get him to do it. She's like, no, he works real hard for what he does. I mean, she understood and appreciated, and I shared a story yesterday about how much they appreciate each other. And that's something that I'm not going to say is rare, but it's not as common as it should be. And to see it in young people is really rewarding. The other thing that I would say is, as I tried to think about this, is a lot of times when I'm with some folks, there's a little thing or two that really jumps out at me that catches, for me, my perspective, my slant. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but the family is just a very real, genuine family, and they welcomed me like their own, and we just, again, felt very comfortable with each other. And but there wasn't any one thing that jumped out. And again, I don't mean it in a bad way. I actually mean it in a positive way, that when you're around fun and goodness and respect and intelligence and the ability to have a civil conversation, and it just was wonderful for me. So thank you guys, Aaron and Christy and the kids. The one thing I'll always remember is for about 30 minutes that we had kitty choke hour, and that was a lot of fun. So I'll certainly remember that. And Aaron reached out, and he lives in the area where there's a lot of petrified wood. He just went out in his yard and picked up a couple pieces for me to share with my kids. So I certainly appreciate that. And their oldest daughter, Wiley, we made a trade. She gave me a ribbon tied around. She said, I don't have anything fancy, but she tied it around my wrist. I didn't ask her for it. She asked me what they were, and I actually gave her one of my extra Jet Smith. If you guys remember Jet, my little cowboy friend back in Chelsea, Oklahoma, who overcame childhood stroke. I gave him one of hers and explained the story to her, and so forth. So that was a really wonderful couple of days. I'm looking forward to the rest of the journey. I really am. I'm looking forward to getting home. I'm looking forward to being finished. I miss my kids. I miss just the comforts of home. But yeah, we're going to go on, and I'm sure there's just going to be even more stories as we go. And on that note, so let's get serious for a minute. Um, I try on here to not talk about a couple of things. I try to not talk about, even when I'm with people, I try not to talk about politics, and I try not to talk about religion, um, because it can be very, not polarizing, but people can shut you off real quick when it comes to those two um, topics of discussion, because they're very passionate about those topics. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit today. Imagine, I've been through, I'm just guessing, 300 towns on my journey. And let's say I said to you, you were going to go through 300 towns, and every town you went to, somebody said, did you try that hamburger yet? You've got to try that hamburger. You've got to go try that hamburger. It's the best hamburger you'll ever have. Eventually you go, you know what? Let me try that hamburger. That's the way religion has been for me on this journey. Before I left on the journey, I believed in God, but honestly had a very indifferent view of it. Look, if He loves me, He'll take care of me. If He's not, that's all right too. Look, I'm just kind of getting through life here. And but as this journey's gone on, I've attended services, and I've heard different pastors, I've heard different people, I've gotten different perspectives. Today, Christy and I spent an hour and a half this morning just talking about different things, and having her give me her perspective of what she's researched. But I went to their service today, and I heard their pastor speak, and something just struck me. It seems like every time I go, there's a little something else that strikes me as different, catches my attention. And it's funny that sometimes a message meant or delivered in a religious overtone is really applicable to just everyday real life overtone. And that's something I saw today. So let me talk about that today. My whole life, and this is on me, not anybody else, this is on me, the word pride has been always something of a compliment, and meant in a positive fashion, right? I'm proud of my children. I'm proud of our country. I take great pride in how I do something or things like that. So pride has always been a positive for me. And as the pastor was speaking today, he cited a couple of different Bible verses where Jesus is walking and he had hordes of people following him, and yet it was, in one case, the leper, and in one case, the blind man that went up to him and asked him for help, and he obliged, and he obliged and helped the people that asked for it. And it clicked in my mind at that moment that of the seven, not sins, what am I talking about? I don't know why it just escaped me. But yeah, maybe 7 deadly sins, is that it? Pride is one of those. And every time I go to church, I see it in everyday life with other things, but I'm just talking about me when it goes to church. I wonder how many other people there are kind of like me, that it's not embarrassing, but we're afraid to let ourselves go. I asked myself this question today as I looked at people in my own life, not religiously, in everyday life. Jesus helped the ones that stripped away all their pride and asked for help. Oftentimes you hear jailhouse religion, you hear people that turn to God when they're battling their addictions, when they're battling incarceration, when they're at their lowest point. And up until today, I always, like a lot of other people, had a cynical view of it, of like, well, of course you turn to him then, right? Because you got no other options. But I don't think that's it at all. I think what it is that at that point, people at their lowest have stripped away themselves of any pride. And they're not ashamed of anything. And they're willing to allow themselves to believe. And I tell you this not from a religious standpoint, I tell you this in everyday life. I ask myself, why do people not allow themselves to get the help they need, to admit who they are in terms of admitting their weaknesses. And I talk about it, right? There are people that are insecure. There are people that have anger issues. There are people that have anxiety issues. There are people that have, mental disease, whatever it might be, jealousy issues, But I'm thinking of somebody in particular that I know that always seems to be angry under the surface. And I say sometimes to him, why are you so angry? I'm not saying to criticize him. I'm trying to help. But his first answer is always, I'm not angry. They spend so much time defending it. I was close with somebody that has some anxiety issues, and I'd say, what are you talking about? Why are you going there with this? And instead of just embracing it and bearing their soul and going, hey, that's who I am, they would spend 2 or 3 days fighting and denying it. And it dawned on me today that it's pride that gets in the way. There's a stereotype that men don't ask for directions. Why don't you think men ask for directions? It's pride that gets in the way. I got this, hon. I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. I got this. Right? I made an analogy, and it might have been on one of my redos, but my brother's one of these guys that is as strong as an ox. He can have his leg cut off, or sliced up, bleeding out his leg, and someone roll up to him and offer him a ride. He go, no, I don't want to get blood in your car. I got this. Because somehow asking for help is deemed to be a weakness. So we let our pride get in the way. And it dawned on me, it's a strange thing. When we want a job, we ask for it. We fill out an application, we send in a resume, we say, look, I'd like to be considered for this position. Nobody comes knocking on your door and says, hey, I got a position for you. I think you're perfect for it. When you're dating, you don't sit in your house and have somebody knock on your door and go, hey, I think I might be the one for you. Why don't we get together and get to know each other? Right? You put yourself out there, and you put your pride aside, and you say, hey, would you like to have dinner? Or you go on a dating site, or whatever you do. But you put your pride aside for that. But yet, when it comes to pointing a thumb, which is what this comes back around to, when it comes to pointing the thumb at ourselves about who we really are, I really believe that there was a aha moment for me today, that it's pride that gets in the way. Well, if I admit that I'm insecure, boy, that's weakness, and I'm too proud for that. Right? We all walk around with this persona that we want the world to see us as, even though we all know it's a persona. Why don't we let the world see who we really are? Because they'll judge us? Probably. But who cares if they do? And I really think it comes down to pride. And as the 2 Bible scriptures that I heard today were that there were hordes of people following Jesus, and he certainly would have helped them had they asked, but they just wanted to follow and be too proud to ask for help. But yet the ones that reached out to him and said, Jesus, please help me, he gave sight to the blind man, and he cured the leper of his leprosy. And again, getting away from the everyday life but back to religion, I wonder how many people out there are afraid to let their mind go and be open to something. Like I said, if I went through 300 towns and 300 people told me I should try a hamburger, I'm going to try the hamburger. I may choose not to like it, but I'm going to try it. So that's kind of my take on the religious aspect of things. Why I'm giving it, an absolute fair shot now. And it seems like every time I get a different aha moment, and that was mine for today. So my challenge to you guys as I wrap this up, tonight, you'll hear it tomorrow morning, by the time this thing even posts on my Facebook, but, ask yourselves, why is it that, you're with people close to you, and they say things to you like either, whatever it might be, hey, you got to stop doing that, you seem selfish, or you're too high-strung, you're too uptight. It seems like the first words out of our mouth from people that love us aren't, am I really? I don't see it that way, but tell me how. Let me identify myself and be better. The first reaction is always, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? You don't understand. You don't get me. You haven't walked a day in my shoes. Why are we so proud that we've got to defend when people try to talk to us? So that's my challenge to you guys today, is look in the mirror, point the thumb, and strip yourself of pride and really ask yourself who you are. I'm running out of time. I love you guys. Thanks for listening. 3 weeks to go. Take care, guys.